Welcome to Said in Stone, an Ozinga podcast, where we converge with our expert coworkers, industry leaders, and others on what we've made, what we can build on, and the legacy we'll leave behind. Subscribe to the program on your preferred podcast app, as well as on YouTube for full video of every conversation. And give us a follow on Instagram at saidinstone_podcast. Today's guest is Ozinga Chief Business Development Officer, Justin Ozinga. As one of 6 brothers in our 4th generation of ownership, there's not much Justin hasn't done for Ozinga. Working his way through dispatch, quality control, sales training, and more, Justin has led through various executive roles for over 15 years. His drive and ability to think outside the box have provided several recent developments you'll hear about today for expanding Ozinga's growth in both B2B and B2C markets. Let's hear today's conversation with Ozinga CEO, Marty Ozinga.
Justin Ozinga, welcome to the Ozinga podcast. It's good to have you here. I think it would be good to sort of hear from you direct. I'd be curious to hear sort of your perspective on, this was kind of your brainchild, and, you're responsible for how we, why we're here and what we did. So I'd just be curious, where did that come? I know we all listen to podcasts, but why did you think that in the lobby of the Mokina corporate office, we should have a podcast studio?
Well, we had our safety summit, and Adam Pummer did a mock podcast thing, almost like a Joe Rogan mock thing, and he was bringing people up on stage, and I thought it was just really good communication. They were talking to each other, but obviously the audience was listening, and
right.
And then it just seems to be all the momentum on the number one form of media today is podcast. That seems to be what people have the appetite or the bandwidth or patience to listen to.
By the way, you have a great voice for in these things. It's deeper and rich.
I try to talk a couple octaves lower.
There you go. Are you doing that on purpose for this?
Maybe. I just thought this was wasted space down here, and this would be a good spot for it. So, it looks like a news media studio when you walk in front of NBC or something like that. And I think LinkedIn's fine just doing posts and stuff like that, but I don't know that it gets a huge audience as far as this type of content. And I think there's a lot of things that aren't secrets in our industry that we should be shouting from the rooftop. Stuff like safety. Mm-hmm. We've seen great success with that, and talking about those things as well as other new technologies we're working on, and just I think it'll get a good audience all around the world.
Yeah, good. What other things, you mentioned safety, what other things do you see as possibly sort of becoming a topic or a podcast sort of channel or whatever when you originally were thinking about this?
Right. When I ran for mayor of Frankfurt recently, April 1st was the election, I just heard from so many builders and developers and things, the frustrations of, why it's so difficult and so much red tape and permitting issues and the time it takes and the amount of costs associated with the delays. And I just think it'd be great to have a lot of, whether that's business owners or, superintendents on the job sites, and you just start asking a lot of questions of people on mm-hmm. how do we streamline this process of permitting, and what are the cost centers that we could lower as a country to get more competitive, because more and more it's a global economy, mm-hmm. and we're losing out by having to import all this stuff because our costs are so high to build things locally. And one of the ways to get those down is to streamline a lot of the way we go about, getting permits and all that other stuff.
With a topic like that, could you see that being the sort of theme of a podcast in and of itself, or was that, how do you think about that?
Yeah, I haven't thought through that too much yet, but I think it certainly could be. I think there could be room for a podcast that, what does building in America look like and how can we improve it?
Yeah, I like it. I think that would be really interesting.
And just
I'd listen
try to bring in a lot of different developers and just ask them a million questions as to, what are the headwinds and what kind of things do you come up against, and what are your biggest frustrations, and what things are easy fixes. And, and then I think the more you talk about it, as the population learns about it, they'll demand the change that's needed.
What role do you see yourself in any of this, other than being responsible for getting it off the ground? Do you see it evolving?
I'm still thinking through that, but yeah, I think starting to bring in some of those folks and interviewing them, I think that'd be interesting.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I mean, I have found it to be such an easy and natural thing to do. Just, we have conversations all the time.
It's just recording them.
And you're recording them. Right. And, and then the guys do the magic here with the editing and other things. And, I think the trick is to make it interesting enough that people find, mm-hmm.
An
interest in tuning in, and then building your audience from there. one of the things I've tried to do with this process, my hope is that people can get to know the individual more so than just the day-to-day work
Right.
allows for it to happen, to create some more trust, to create more sort of empathy, and just to get to know the person better. We try to do that with check-ins and some other things, but I like a 45-minute conversation where you can really get to know you better. And so one of the things I've done with people is just to start at the beginning and just kind of tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I need glasses now. So you're a little foggy, Marty, so I'm going to put my glasses on.
Okay,
That's
there
better.
you go.
I can see you
Yeah,
now.
crystal clear. What is your name and where were you born and that kind of thing?
All right. Justin Ozinga, born in Evergreen Park, Illinois, 1979, June 18, 1979.
And what, do you have a middle name?
Justin Alexander Ozinga.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I noticed on your LinkedIn, you include your middle name. Is that something that you're proud of? Some people are very ashamed of their middle name, and some people seem to be proud of
that's
their
a
middle
funny
name.
thing. I never did like my middle name, and as I grew older and found out what the meaning of Alexander and what it stood for, and the people that held it and everything else, I like it now. So
Interesting. Do you know why you didn't like it when you were younger?
honestly, it sounded feminine or something to me.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it's not at all. So I don't know why. I even thought my first name did, and now I don't feel like that either.
Huh. I wouldn't have thought that, or I never did think that.
I know I did, but I don't know why.
Interesting. So,
Yeah.
but now, like when you say the name, like what does the name Alexander or even Justin to you, like what is it?
Well, Justin is justice, and like I do have sort of a fire for justice and things that I see that are unfair. People are doing that,
Yeah.
that shouldn't be, and I get a little fired up about that. But Alexander is defender of man, so they're sort of similar in that respect.
Yeah. Whenever I think of Alexander, I think of Alexander the Great.
Right.
And
The Conqueror.
and obviously there's a Greek heritage thing there. I don't know. Do you know where? Obviously, you're my brother, and so
Yeah.
where did mom or dad or
I have
whoever-
no idea.
Okay, you never asked and you never found
No.
out. And okay, well,
I wish I knew the answer to that.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why they came up with that name.
Huh. Okay. So
Either of them. But I love going out and conquering new territories too.
Yeah.
So I could see, that's true to my name as well. Exploring new territories to find and develop and turn it into a business. It's tons of fun.
Yeah, and Alexander the Great was famous for that.
Yeah.
June 18th, 1979. You're one of many brothers. So tell me about that. Were you?
Yeah, I'm
from,
the upper middle, so 3 out of 6 brothers.
Uh-huh.
You're my oldest. I had tons of fun growing up. It was just a total free-for-all, and I felt like Dad just let us work out most of our own issues, and I do that with my kids now. That's the much less stressful way to do things.
Yeah.
But
And what do you mean by like work out our own? Like just kind of.
Yeah,
like, don't coddle or.
Yeah, not coddling and not engaging too much if they're having an argument, as long as they're not killing each other. Just let them fix it, figure it out. And I think conflict resolution is a very underestimated or understated skill set in today's day and age, where people just shut up or walk away or don't say anything, but then they fester and stew about it.
Yeah.
Like having the skill set to have conflict and talk through it and work it out and still be friends with those people, that's something that's definitely needed today, a lot more than it is.
Any other sort of reflections on growing up one of 6 boys in Evergreen Park?
Oh, where do I start? I mean, it was a ton of fun. It just, a lot of building things and breaking things and blowing things up and, just random stuff, what boys do when they're bored, I guess. But, it's, I have mostly great memories about my childhood, and grew up in Evergreen Park and then moved to Homer Glen in junior high, and it was much different because we're out in the country at that point, but got into fishing and everything else. So
you went to Chicago Christian High School from your
that's a
freshman
funny
year?
thing. I only went to Chicago Christian High School for a year and a half.
And then what happened?
I was there my freshman year, but the second half of my freshman year I had mono, so I was out for a whole semester.
Oh wow!
So I only did
and
one
you're just kinda
semester
like in bed,
school.
or-
I was basically in bedridden for 6
A
months.
whole semester. Wow.
And then the second year we did our family sabbatical. Mm-hmm. And then the third year I went back to class and I couldn't stand it. So I got through that year. So that was my junior year. And then my senior year I homeschooled. So I was only at Chicago Christian for a year and a half.
Wow.
Out of 4.
And so when we talk about the family sabbatical, we were on the road for 10 months. we visited 25 countries. What is your sort of takeaway from that? And going back to school, like you've talked about this, like going back to like day-to-day stuff was
a lot
more
of the
difficult.
stuff you learn in school is history, and you learn about the Romans and the Greeks and all these different things. And so we traveled to all those places and followed up where the Bible was, the Apostle Paul, and a lot of, history and architecture and all those, really great things with culture, and from India to Africa to Asia. And you sort of learning at the doorstep of, those countries and inside those countries. And then to go sit in a cinder block classroom after that for a year, it's just, I couldn't do it.
And so what was I wasn't involved, or I wasn't around because I was off to college at this point. What was that process? You just said to mom or dad, or, hey, I don't want to go back?
Yeah.
And they were like, okay.
Mom was thrilled about that. I think she wanted company at home or something.
Okay.
All our kids
Because you weren't the first person to homeschool.
Tim
either.
did it before.
And Erin did too.
I think so. Mom seemed happy.
She didn't really seem to mind that that her kids didn't want to go to school.
And the funny thing is, homeschooling, it's like 3 hours a day for 4 days a week, and you're pretty much caught up because you take out lunch and
what
recess.
Other things did you find occupy your time with at that point when you were homeschooling, since it's just a few hours a day or whatever? Do you
I'd
recall?
go fishing or hang out with friends, go downtown, do all kinds of stuff. The afternoons are pretty much off. The funny thing with homeschooling is, like, my freshman year, for that semester I was out on mono. I was never very good at math, and so the class of 28, 30 kids, whatever it is, they have to keep going because they have to get through their lesson. And I just never really wanted to slow the class down because I wasn't great at it. And so I'd get, C's and D's in math. But then when I did the homeschooling portion of math on my, during mono, I got an A on all the classes when I returned.
Yeah. Interesting.
Because I self-taught, and you have to learn self-taught versus just sitting in a class. You could let the day go by and not have to worry, It's different.
Yeah. Tell me about, too, like you guys, when you were in high school, I don't know what time it was, but you were getting up quite early to go, clean the office and that kind of stuff, too.
Yeah, it was junior year after we got back from the sabbatical, the world trip sabbatical thing. Dad said to Carl and I, it's about time you guys start working, but we were in high school. And I said, that's fine, but, we have to be at school at 8:30, which is 45 minutes in Palos from Homer Glen. And he's like, well, that's fine. You can start cleaning my offices at 4:30 in the morning, from 4:30 to 6:30. So we'd get up at 4 a.m. and clean for 2 hours most mornings and fall asleep during class all day at school.
Did you guys enjoy that early morning cleaning of the place, or it was just you didn't really think about it? You were working.
Yeah, we just did it.
Yeah,
cleaning toilets and desks and floors and mopping and cleaning, and it is what it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
That was my first paycheck from Ozinga, though. I was 16, I think.
And then what from there? Like, once you're done with high school, then what happened?
Yeah, so I got through high school and went to college. I worked summers during college at Ozinga. And, I remember, I think it was my freshman summer of college, I worked in Chinatown. Paul and I started at whatever time it was, 5:30 in the morning, I think, in Chinatown.
For the summer?
For the summer. And then we'd take off at 11:30, and all the drivers and the yard people would give us crap because, you're working half day, But we would just drive right over to 103rd Street down the way, and then we'd be close-up guys there.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
So it wasn't out of the norm to work 14, 16 hours a day. We'd be there till 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, and you're living in Homer Glen, too, right?
Right.
I mean, so you're kind of driving all the way to the city and then back to 103rd and back home. Yeah.
So we were putting in 14, 16 hours a day every day. And once again, the money was good. That part was fun, but it was exhausting. Like, I was falling asleep driving on the way home.
Right.
It wasn't very safe.
Yeah. And I think I remember you guys batching some of the slip-form concrete silo for the Lafarge terminal. We had like round-the-clock
that could be
slip-form concrete silo, and because we needed batch people 24/7, and it lasted like days.
Huh.
And I do remember some of you guys were doing the batching for that. And then so what? You went to Trinity. Out of high school?
Yeah, I went to one year
Christian
at Trinity Christian College in Palos, and then I wanted to go to Westmont. I didn't get in the first year, so then it was easier to transfer. So I transferred. I finished up my college degree there. My last 3 years at Westmont. I got married after my sophomore year to Annie, and that was in 1999. August 7th of '99, and which is 25 years ago now.
By the way, I just saw Michaela walk by.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Justin's
my oldest daughter. She's working here now full time. Her and her sister Olivia are the first fifth generation kids working full time.
Full time. That's awesome.
she just graduated college, so that's
Yeah,
fun.
congratulations.
Yeah,
That's a
thank
big
you.
deal. So you were a sophomore at Westmont, and then you got married the summer after your sophomore year.
Correct.
And then you and Annie were in Santa Barbara together
For 2 years.
For 2 of your school years.
Correct.
Remind me, weren't you getting your pilot's license at some point?
Yeah, I started getting my pilot's license in Santa Barbara, learning it there.
Yeah, what made you do that?
There was a Cessna 182 sitting in the hangar at Hall Airport, which is no longer an airport in New Lenox here, and Dad and Rich bought it, and they weren't using it. So
Okay.
I'm like, well, if you guys aren't going to use it, I'll use it. So I went and got my pilot's license.
Okay.
Started flying it around. My first solo night flight was out to McLaren International with out to Vegas.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
And so that was fun. It looked like we were flying upside down because the stars were up and the ground was black. So it was a little trippy.
Yeah.
But so that was fun. And then, I flew over LAX and the 737 flew right underneath me and had some close calls. And, my brother, our brother Paul, we'd go up and do the power on stalls because he got his pilot's license too. And the whole plane would flip over and start spinning.
Oh, my goodness. And where was that, around here or out there?
Over at New Lenox.
Oh, okay.
And the instruments, some of the gyroscopes flip over when you do that because you're not supposed to.
Ah.
And one of the guys that manages the plane said, "What happened to these gyroscopes? They're flipped over." We're like, "We have no idea."
Oh my gosh. Jeez. Sometimes it's a miracle, I think, that we all made it alive through
we were doing where the whole plane flips over. You go straight up in the air with full power, and then it finally the whole thing flips over and goes into a spin.
Okay.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah. Wasn't some of that part of your training, not to that extent, but some of where you kind of stall the plane out on purpose
Right.
as part of your training, right?
It's part of the training.
Yeah.
But it's fun.
Yeah.
So we kept doing it.
You mentioned the word Justin and justice and how that means something to you. It made me remind me of some of the Reclaim 13 work that you've done. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. Some of that started, it came out of the blue. I was just praying. I was praying for a while about how I can get more involved in kingdom type work and just asking God to show me clear direction on it. And it was in January, which happened to be, I didn't know this at the time, but it was Traffic Awareness Month. And I just felt like the Lord was telling me I barely knew about this issue, but to, help fight sex trafficking and what's going on with that in the area. And so I just started looking into it, and it brought me down many different paths, and actually went to Cambodia with Annie and got to learn quite a bit about what's happening out there and some of the nonprofits and how they're helping girls out there. And then found out it was a big local issue, got introduced to Tom Dart, which is the sheriff of Cook County, and he told me that it's a major issue here. You don't have to go overseas to help, fight that issue. And I said, well, give me an example. And he said, well, when the girls are caught in raids around here, underage girls, they put them in basically a trailer outside the main prison because they're under 18. They
Over
can't
there
put
in
them in the
Cook County,
prison.
I think.
In Cook County.
Yeah, over in California.
And but they can only hold them for 48 hours because they're not pressing charges against them as a minor. And so then they let them go. They turn them over to DCFS, and then the pimps are waiting outside the safe house to just pick them up and put them back on the street again. And so I said, well, how can I help? And he said, well, we need a house we could send these girls to when we pick them up so they can get the help they need. Professional help, not just, a babysitter. I said, okay, good. That's what we'll do. And he blew it off like anybody else that would offer to help. I think he didn't take me seriously. But I got involved with Cassandra Ma, which was a part of a different organization at the time called Compassionate Communities for Children. And I joined their board. We changed the name to Reclaim 13. Actually, Cultivate helped us pick that name. So that was cool. 13 is the average age that girls get trapped in this issue. So we were offered a house, and which was a miracle. And the bigger miracle was that it was already zoned for group home use. And so we didn't have to go through any changes, and we thought that would be the biggest hurdle, but it turned out it wasn't one at all. And we got the house up and running, and there's been dozens of girls that have been helped, as young as 8 years old.
Wow.
And a lot of them have gone on to get their college degrees and nursing degrees. And, a lot of them say they wouldn't be alive today if it wasn't for Cherish House, which is what they call it.
That's an amazing story. I mean, I had the opportunity to visit last summer with my daughter, Elise. I have a daughter now, that Ayana, who's about that age, and it just breaks you when you see like this. We saw a young girl who had gotten picked up the night before, and they had her sort of in a room by herself just to give her space and not overwhelm her, but she was shaking like a leaf, and just to see that on the other end of the spectrum, like girls who were thriving, who'd been there for a while and who'd been loved on and were just smiling and happy. And it just to see the extremes from the work that they do, all the therapy they go through and everything else, it's an amazing thing when you get to sort of see that firsthand, like,
Right.
who knows, like, but someday in heaven, like all the impacts, like a little prompting from the Lord that he gave to you, then,
Right.
It's these steps of obedience to get it to a point.
Yeah, the cool thing is, like, you put these puzzle pieces together after the fact, but I sort of see it as two sides of a prayer. Like, I'm sitting there praying, how can I help? And you had other people praying during Traffic Awareness Month, like, bring us helpers
Yeah.
to help this issue. And then the Lord connected both parties and then turned into what it is.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I just think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's talk about sort of your career path at Ozinga. You were living in Orland, and what happened, like, work-wise? You had worked summers at the company. You mentioned in Chicago. Was it always in Chicago, or were you working elsewhere?
No, I
another
worked
summer?
all over Chicago, Indiana, the West, wherever.
In the summers.
need was,
yeah. But then when you came out of college, where did you start working?
I think Jeff Ozinga and our cousin, we became the managers of 30-pound air hammers, shipping out the Mokina drums.
Once you were done with college?
Yeah.
Really? I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
yeah.
I knew you guys had done that. I didn't know, like, after college that was.
Yeah, that summer.
Okay.
Just chipping out
Oh,
all
congratulations.
the mixers.
You got
and
a college degree.
Yeah.
Here's what you're going to do. Wow.
For like 12 hours a day, we just chipped concrete out and almost died
Okay.
every day. I'm convinced to this day that Dad tried to get us to quit. Just like, it was almost like Navy SEAL training, like,
Yeah.
if he could get us to not quit, like, we'd be set.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he had some interesting methods.
And if we quit, then, he's probably doing us a favor because we're not cut out for it.
Yeah. But that was here in Mokina?
Right.
Okay.
That was in Mokina.
And then what?
And then I went out to Plainfield. I was in doing all kinds of different things. I was dispatch. I did quality control. I did sales training. I ran the plants. I probably personally ran, over 100,000 yards of concrete through concrete plants.
You
for big
liked
warehouse
doing
jobs.
that,
Yeah,
like,
it was a lot of
yeah.
fun for me. Like getting the plant to move a lot faster and,
Yeah.
tweaking it to, get the loads out. We were doing a big warehouse for Dollar Tree, and the drivers didn't care for it, but I would try to, we had stretch semis at the time, and there was 10-yard loads, and I would shrink mix them because it was going in, which means, like, you only mix it for about 18 seconds till you get slump. It was like 5-6 inch slump for a warehouse floor, but the stretch semis had really big drums on them that could fit a lot, and my goal was, by the time the driver got under the boot, he'd get out of his truck to walk to the back of the vehicle to get his ticket. And I would try to get the whole load in the truck and blast the horn before he got to the back of the truck walking. And I'd do it a lot. And the guys would get so mad at me because I was, moving them along.
Yeah, right.
Rainey Tice was timing me, and I had that at 1 hour. I did 46 loads in 1 hour.
Oh, my goodness.
460 an hour.
46. Yeah, that's a lot.
That was shrink mixing.
Yeah.
Just 18-second mix time.
Yeah, that's great. It's fun, like just the competitive nature
Right.
of trying to do something that, people say can't be done, or, yeah, that's pretty cool. And so from there, you're in Plainfield, and you guys, you're in the dispatch office, you're batching concrete, and then what happened?
Yeah, that was in the crazy days, like 2005, 6, 7,
Yeah, it was
where
slammed.
one subdivision was doing 1,200 yards a day and going from 6 a.m. till 9 p.m.
Yeah.
The hours were insane. We don't
Yeah.
do that anymore now, but so really long hours, and then spent quite a bit of time doing all that, and then I started getting more involved and interested in the expansion part, so I was out scouting for property and did a lot of research, and that's how we ended up with the Montgomery yard. I was, driving around with Dad, and he's a stopwatch with his pen and writing down the times between different locations like he did.
Okay. Yeah, we didn't have Google Maps back then with GPS on them.
No, so he at all these intersections and between plants, he would write all the times down manually and the miles, and he'd use his odometer, and it was funny. And then Rich DeBoer helped out too to find that spot, and you had rail on it, and so we ended up building the Montgomery plant, which at the time was like outrageously expensive. I remember.
I do remember that too. Yeah.
And but it's been a great plant for us ever since. And from there, I went back to Mokina and started getting more involved on the management side. Oversaw dispatch for a while, and then became like sort of a GM type role for the South, and then moved up to the executive level, overseeing the entire region. and did that for a while, and things were going well. And then moved into, when we had this corporate office that we're in now, moved up here and started getting more involved in the other regions as well. Till I became president of All Ready Mix for a number of years, and then president of Ozinga for about, 3.5 years, up until last August of 24, I think it was.
Yeah, that's quite a career path, a lot of different things.
Yeah. So there's not much I haven't done in the company. It's I've sort of mixed feelings about it. In the one sense, it almost feels like I retired, because all the million decisions in Ready Mix you have to make every day, or constantly blowing up your phone and email. That sort of goes away when you step away from it. But I feel like I have a lot more bandwidth to work on things that I've always thought or dreamed of. So I'm full-time business development now, working on various different projects and having fun with it.
Yeah, you want to talk about a couple of those, or?
Yeah. One of them is Revitalize. We've been working for a number of years now on remanufacturing trucks, taking the old used Ready Mix trucks and making them new again, front and rear discharge. And we started in on a small scale, and then we got up to maybe 15, and then last year was around 22 trucks, and we're just completely out of space in Indiana where it's at. And so we decided to take a big leap and just signed a lease on a 160,000 square foot building in Hobart to start really growing. And my goal with these guys is within a few years to be making 500 trucks a year.
Okay. And that's a matter of taking older trucks, kind of stripping them down, and then basically getting a new truck.
Yeah, you strip it all the way down to the frame pretty much, and rebuild the engine and put a lot of new parts on, and it's basically a brand new truck again.
And we would do that for Ozinga's fleet, but then other anybody else.
Yeah, we have quite a few orders from about half a dozen other ready mix companies and growing, where they want us to build their trucks as well, because the new ones are so expensive and very far out with the time.
Yeah, very interesting. And then what else?
Another program we're working on, which is like phase 2, we did this before, is called Ozinga Home, where we have an online presence where a homeowner can go online and just drag a line around their driveway or patio as big as they want, and the Google Map feature will tell us the exact square footage and how that translates into a per square foot cost to either rip out in place or build new, a driveway, patio, sidewalk, stoops, all that kind of stuff. So a homeowner can now go on and get an instant quote through Ozinga, and a certified Ozinga Home contractor, one of our customers, will go out there and verify the measurements are accurate. As long as they are, the quote's good. And we're off to the races, and it's been an amazing experience so far. The homeowners are thrilled with it.
Great.
Because right now they call us and they say, do you have any recommendations on contractors? We'll give them 3 or 4, and a lot of those people don't call them back or don't have time to, and even the ones that do, then the scheduling might be out 3-4 months, and people get so frustrated that they just give up on the project and just deal with their broken up driveway or patio.
Yeah.
And they just live with it because it's too much of a nuisance. But now we have, someone can get a quote, and within days they could have their new driveway patio.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a great thing. Do you see that concept going beyond the service area of Ozinga?
Yeah, right now we're in the Midwest area where we service, but hopefully by January of 26, so within like 6-7 months from now, we're going to launch it nationally, where contractors from anywhere in the country can sign up to be part of this program. And
then ready mix companies would as well, or how does that?
We're still working through those details.
Okay,
but most likely it'll be direct through contractors.
Okay. Interesting. Let's jump back to personally. So you have 5 daughters and 2 working full-time at the family business. You mentioned Michaela just graduated from college. She's getting married.
Yeah, in September.
That's a lot going on for you. And
I'm building a new house. So I'm moving in August, hopefully. And then my second daughter wants to get married, so that's coming up soon. And
got a lot going on.
A lot of change, which is all good things, but it can be a bit stressful at times.
Yeah.
Just a state of mind type of thing.
Yeah. Other than that, what else do you find sort of these days gives you joy, or you look forward to, or what would you say is stuff that you really like to work on or think about?
Yeah, like making something out of nothing, like creating and developing and starting new companies or new things, or taking existing ones and growing them quite a bit. I find a lot of joy and fun in that.
You've kind of discovered that through some personality tests and things that's one of your superpowers kind of thing, right? Like some ideation, or how would you describe that?
Yeah, ideation is like one of my biggest skill sets, and connectiveness and like looking into the future and like trying to see around corners and stuff like that. And I've always enjoyed, like the whole Florida thing. I was part of that. Went down there and connected with all those people and did a lot of the hiring and found all the sites for those locations. And that was quite a big lift, but we got it all done, even though people said we couldn't.
Yeah.
Our initial meetings down there was like, no, we're not selling you my company, because we tried acquiring some companies, and they said, good luck ever getting a plant permit in Miami. It'll never happen. And these were the big guys saying that. And so that's about all the encouragement we needed to do it.
Yeah.
And so we did make it happen. Now we're one of the top 3 largest producers in the whole Southeast Florida, from Miami to Palm Beach.
Yeah, all from scratch.
In 5 years, from zero.
Yeah. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah, we have, I think, over 200 employees down there now, and doing a lot of concrete. And then cement import terminal in Port of Palm Beach too, which hasn't been done in over 50 years. So everybody said that couldn't be done either, not for lack of trying. And, so there's a lot of providence, obviously, give God the credit for it. But, I think one of the things that gives me joy and satisfaction is when someone says something can't be done and you get it done.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
But it's just, to me, that's a lot of fun. Just having a challenge in front of me that's sort of impossible.
Yeah.
I get bored if anybody can do it.
When it comes to like that kind of mindset, I mean, how do you try to encourage other people to, take risks? Or
taking risk is one thing, but seeing it to completion is a whole nother thing. That's a skill set that's sorely lacking. Like just having the grit and the determination and the perseverance to see something through. And just because you're told no, it doesn't mean no. It means you're talking to the wrong person. Maybe it's the wrong timing. It's just, no never means no to me. It just, so I don't get discouraged by being told no. Whereas a lot of people quit. Like they get their first no and they quit. They think, oh, well, nice try. I'll go find something else. And
how does that manifest? Do you find you're like, instead of just you hear a no, and is it just like, okay, well, what do I do next?
Well, I'll give you an example. Like we went down there. I was with Jeff Ozinga, our cousin, and the 17th Avenue property, which was really the linchpin of being there. If we didn't get that, it'd be tough to be in Ready Mix because you can't service downtown. And so we had to have that property because 4 acres. And we were dealing with a owner that was not easy to work with, and the property's been for sale for a while because nobody could get a deal done with this guy. And so I scheduled them. We're going back and forth forever. I was trying to get it under contract, and I scheduled it. We're stuck on a phase 2 because there was an environmental disaster there, and we wanted to make sure we weren't walking into it and taking that on. And so they would only give us 30 days for a phase 2, and we needed 45 days to get the thing done. And so I scheduled a meeting with the owner, which he was in his 70s at the time. This was like 6 years ago. So I went down there with Jeff, and Peppy met us there, and we drove over there, and I walk in the office, and the guy's like, the secretary comes out, and he's, can I help you? And I said, yeah, I'm Justin Ozinga. I'm here to meet with the owner about this property. And she comes back out and says, he doesn't have time to meet with you. He's in another meeting. And Jeff starts walking out. I'm like, where are you going? And he's like, well, she just said he doesn't have time to meet with you. I'm like, I flew down here. I'm meeting with him.
Yeah.
What do you mean you're meeting with him? He said he can't meet with you. And I said to the lady, I said, well, I'll just sit in the lobby till he comes out. I have nowhere to go. My flight's not till later anyways. And she's like, well, I told you he doesn't have time to meet with you. And I said, well, he's going to meet with me. He scheduled this meeting, and I'm not leaving until he comes out here. And so Jeff's like, come on, let's go. Forget it. I'm like, no, I'm not going to forget. It just made me, it's back to that justice thing.
Yeah.
If you agree to meet with me and then you say you can't, unless something tragic happened, like if it's just your own scheduling issues, like how is that my problem?
Right.
I didn't jump on a plane.
Right.
So, and we had to get this done too. It wasn't just like I'm being a jerk.
Right.
And so finally the guy's son comes out. He's like, this younger guy in his upper 20s or low 30s with half his shirt buttoned down and, just a real cool cat. And he's like, what's your problem? Didn't you hear? My dad doesn't have time to meet with you. And I'm like, I heard, but he scheduled this meeting and I need an answer. And he goes, you have your answer. You have 30 days. And I said, I need 45 days. And he's like, that's not going to happen. And I said, it's got to happen. That's what I need. We need 45 days. And we just stood face to face, just staring at each other, inches from each other. And it was just silent, like a silent pause for a while. And finally he said, fine, we'll give you 45 days. And I said, fine, nice to meet you. And I left. And we got the 45 days. We did phase 2. It was okay. It was good enough to buy. And we ended up buying it.
Yeah. Great story. It's an example of, to your point, not accepting no.
Right.
Some people don't have the stomach for it, or think that that's all there is, or whatever. I mean,
a lot of the properties are like that. The Golden Glades property was like that. We were being shown all these places and junkyards and pothole-full streets, and I'm like, I'm not building a ready-mix plant over here. It's a disaster. The driver's teeth will get knocked out of there going up and down this road. And we'd be at a disadvantage to our competition. So I pulled up on my phone the zoning map, and right next to Titan in the main interchange, almost like a Chinatown, there was a big, huge 8-acre piece of property that was zoned heavy industrial. So I told Pepe, he was driving, Pepe Diaz, I said, go over here. So we go over there, and it was Wabash trailers, chock full, like the whole thing. There wasn't an inch of real estate left. It was full, like real busy yard. And I said, this is the site. This is where I want the next plant. And Jeff said, it's not for sale. There's no for sale sign on it, and it's busy. I said, I don't care. This is the one. And so I called Kyle Schumacher, one of the guys we work with real estate, and I said, hey, do you mind calling these guys to see if they're open to selling this land? And he calls them up, and he's like, oh, you must have a mic in our boardroom. We were just talking about consolidating and selling this property.
Wow.
And so we bought that one, and it was off market, and we got it for a huge discount, and because there was no real good comps at the time. And and that property's like quadrupled or more in value since, but not that we're looking to sell it, but it was just another cool story of if you go the traditional route of just only looking at what's for sale or only the yes people that give you the right answers. And there's been like a dozen stories like that down there.
Yeah. And I think that is something that could and should be encouraging to anybody, but to young people who, are told no about something and keep finding a way.
Right.
Especially if you have a strong conviction about something. It's not just, to do it, but if you have a strong conviction to not be discouraged. And I love that lesson.
Yeah, and I think that's where it comes from. I did have a strong conviction that we're meant to be there, and I was praying a lot about it, and I felt like the Lord was telling me, go for it. And with that in mind, I had all the courage in the world to, to do that stuff.
Yeah. Any feedback for me for this experience? Well, how'd you feel about it?
No, it's good. It goes by super fast.
Yeah,
it's
so
fun.
fast.
Yeah,
and it feels natural. It's just a conversation.
Yeah, and in a weird way, it's more of an engaging conversation being on a mic for some reason.
Yeah, isn't it curious? Yeah. Like you can get deeper, into things or have more interesting conversations.
Maybe because it feels more professional.
I don't know. It's
I don't know.
Hopefully our guests feel, whether they're internal or external, have a sense of connection in a way that disarms or makes them feel safe and comfortable enough to where they feel like we can get into some things that maybe they normally don't get into, and that that it could be, the hope ultimately is that it's an encouragement to people who are listening, and that it can change or impact the trajectory of their life based on something. Because I really feel strongly that each of us has a story to tell, and that the gifts and talents and the way that we look at life is unique, and just sharing that can be a blessing to other people to hear it, no matter what season of life they're in. They could be a seasoned vet or, a young person coming into the industry. So
yeah, it's great. Well, thank you, Marty.
Good to have you, and thank you very much for being here. And this podcast studio, again, it's an example of you creating something from nothing, really. I mean, and it's another example of that, and I think it's very rewarding to see it to come to full execution and to see where it goes, because it's a pretty blank slate at this point, and
some great content coming out of here.
Yeah, good, great.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Make sure to subscribe to Set in Stone on your preferred podcast app, as well as on YouTube for full video of every conversation. Keep up on our social media and company updates over at ozinga.com.